Hello everyone. In this video explainer, we are going to deal with the data sufficiency questions. Now, data sufficiency questions is also one of the 5 question types of the newly introduced data insight section of the GMAT focus exam. Now, it's important for you to know that the data sufficiency questions were a part of the quantitative reasoning sections in the legacy GMAT, the older form of GMAT. In the new GMAT Focus Edition, these data sufficiency questions will be a part of the data insight section. Let's look at one of the data insight sample question and see how to approach the question and how to come to an answer. Okay, let's look at one of the data sufficiency questions. Now, data sufficiency questions will have 3 distinct parts as you can look. This is the question. These are 2 associated statements that you will find with the question. You will have statement 1, S1, and you will have statement 2. And you will have 5 choices, 5 associated choices with it, and you can select any one of the choice as the correct answer. So this is essentially a multiple choice question, and you will need to choose one of the 5 choices given, right? Now, how to approach these questions? It's important, very important to remember that these multiple choice options will remain exactly the same no matter which data sufficiency questions you have. And they will also appear in the exact same order. So statement A would always be this, option A, I mean, will always be this, option B will always be this, C, D, and E. Okay? All right, they are going to be exactly the same in exactly the same order. Let's look at what this statement, choice A says. Choice A would say statement 1 alone is sufficient, but statement 2 alone is not sufficient. Now, what does this word sufficient means? As you can probably imagine, since these are data sufficiency questions, the word sufficient is very, very important. Now, sufficient means that if a statement, no matter whether it's 1 or 2, can take you to one definitive answer, then that particular statement is sufficient. So if statement 1 can take you to one definitive answer, then statement 1 alone is sufficient. One definitive answer. If statement 2 can lead you to one definitive answer, then statement 2 alone is sufficient. If statement 1 and statement 2 together can take you to one definitive answer, then together they are sufficient. If statement 1 and statement 2 together or alone cannot take you to the single definitive answer, then neither statement 1 nor statement 2, not together they are sufficient. Okay, so sufficient means how would you ascertain the sufficiency of one statement? Whether that particular statement can take you to one definitive answer is going to let you to that particular choice. So let's see what statement 1 is saying. Statement 1 says that statement 1 alone is sufficient, but statement 2 alone is not sufficient. So statement 1 alone is sufficient to take you to the answer, but statement 2 alone is not sufficient to take you to the answer. That means statement 1 alone can take you to that one single definitive answer, and statement 2 alone cannot take you to the single definitive answer. So this is A. For B, statement 2 alone is sufficient, but statement 1 alone is not sufficient. S1 cannot take you to the single definitive answer, but S2 alone will be able to do that. Okay. What is 3? Both statements together are sufficient, but neither statement alone is sufficient. So together S1 and S2 will take you to the answer, but alone, S1 and S2 cannot take you to the answer. So this is basically option C. In D, they say each statement alone is sufficient. So S1 can take you to the answer alone, and S2 alone can also take you to the answer. So S1 alone can also take you to the answer, S2 alone can also take you to the answer. And E says that statement 1 and statement 2 together are not sufficient. So S1 and S2 alone cannot take you to the answer, and even together they also cannot take you to the single definitive answer. So this is choice E. Okay, now let's ascertain each of this statement and see which of the 5 will be your answer. So the first statement says the monthly rent per person for 4 people to share the rent for the apartment is $375. So basically per person share is $375. How many persons are there? 4 persons. So together, what is the monthly rent? It's very easy to determine. Just multiply 375 by into 4, which is $1,500. Okay. So statement 1 alone is sufficient to take you to the answer. Let's see if statement 2 alone is sufficient to take you to the answer. The monthly rent per person for 4 people to share the rent of the apartment is $125 less than the monthly rent per person for 3 people to share it. Okay, so that means basically if the monthly rent is X, then X by 3, that is 3 people sharing the apartment, and is $125 more than if 4 people share the apartment, right? So that means 12 4x minus x. Is x equals to 300 right? So we can even statement 2 alone is sufficient to take you to the answer. So which choice say this is alone is also sufficient? This alone is also sufficient. You see, B choice says each statement alone is sufficient. So each of this statement, statement 1 alone can take you to a single definitive answer, and statement 2 alone can also take you to a single definitive answer. So each statement alone is sufficient is our choice. So D is the answer. As you prepare and practice more questions, this will become easier for you, and you will eventually learn all these choices, and you will be able to tackle these questions. Thank you.